Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Oh, man, this is a good. Should we stand and recite the pledge? The committee will come to order. I want to welcome the members of the committee, staff, and guests to the organizational meeting of the House Energy and Commerce Committee for this Congress, the 113th Congress. And the chair will recognize myself for a few opening remarks. Serving as chair of this great committee is a wonderful privilege and certainly a awesome responsibility. Sitting in this chair, you cannot help but think of the legacy left by the chairman before and the wonderful opportunities that lay ahead. I'm proud of the work that we did together over the last 2 years. It's true that we didn't always agree, and this room was home to some very spirited debates, but that's as it should be. There are certainly genuine differences of opinion, and each of us was elected to represent the views of our constituents and states and allow the democratic process to prevail. But I do not believe that we ever allowed our differences to overshadow that which binds us together. Our commitment to doing what's right for the country and our recognition of how this committee can help address many of the most pressing challenges and unlock some of the most exciting opportunities facing our great country. So the task for this Congress is clear. We'll pursue policies designed to get our economy back on track, our fiscal house in order, and our government in line with the needs and wishes of its citizens. And we'll pursue policies that allow job creation and economic growth to flourish. And we'll continue to take steps to transform Washington to develop a smaller, modernized government for the innovation era. And will work to protect families, communities, and the civic initiatives that allow American ingenuity to thrive. With that, I'd be happy to yield to Ranking Member Waxman for any remarks that he might have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I want to start by thanking you and your staff for the collegiality you've demonstrated at the start of this 113th Congress. You've been fair and considerate in your approach to organizing the committee. This was your approach last year as well. This committee was often divided on partisan lines, but through it all, you treated the Democratic members fairly, and I thank you for that. My wish for this Congress is that we will be able to extend the spirit of collegiality that characterized our dealings on procedural matters to substantive ones. One of our major areas of jurisdiction is energy policy. Our nation urgently needs a new energy policy. As Superstorm Sandy demonstrated, we're facing a large and growing threat from climate change. I know this is a difficult issue for your side, but it is one we cannot ignore. I hope we'll be able to have a constructive dialogue this Congress about the preeminent energy challenge of our era. I hope also we will be able to move beyond the partisanship that dominated so much of our activities on health last Congress. The Supreme Court has upheld the constitutionality of the Affordable Care Act. The voters have spoken and reelected the president. I hope we will all recognize that health reform is the law of the land. It's here to stay, and that our challenge now should be how we work with the administration to ensure the implementation is as successful as possible for the American people. Last Congress, we fought a lot about these two issues, energy and health care, but when we put aside our differences and joined forces, we were able to accomplish results. I asked my staff to prepare a memo for you that reviews our legislative record last Congress, and I'd like, without objection, to insert that memo into the record. What this analysis shows is simple. When we worked together, we were able to enact good laws, but when the committee reported out partisan bills, they became political statements, and that they went nowhere in the Senate. Last Congress, there were over 30 bills that the Republicans reported from the committee without the support of the majority of our caucus or brought directly to the floor without Democratic support. Of these, just 2 became law in some form. That's a batting average of under 100. Coincidentally, there are also over 30 bills that we negotiated. 18 of these bills became law. That's a batting average of over 500. These included our committee's biggest legislative accomplishments, like the Spectrum and Public Safety Bill and the FDA bill. Mr. Chairman, our committee is most effective when we work together, and as we start in this Congress, I want you to know that our side wants to work with you as we take on the major challenges we will confront. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's now my pleasure to introduce our new Republican members. Congressman Gus Bilirakis, down in the front, will carry on the legacy of his dad. His dad Mike served Florida's 9th Congressional District from 1983 to 2006, and he also sat on this committee. Representing his district in his state is the only Republican member of the committee from Florida now. Gus is also one of the few members who's been granted a waiver to continue his service as vice chair of the Veterans Affairs Committee. These types of linkages are important because we recognize how our work intertwines with that of the other committees, and we appreciate Gus's willingness to take on both roles. Bill Johnson from Ohio. Bill retired from the U.S. Air Force after a distinguished military career and quickly put his leadership skills and technical expertise to work, creating and building high-tech businesses. He came to Congress a little bit more than 2 years ago now, and he has been a real champion for the families and businesses of eastern and southeastern Ohio, recognizing the importance of everything from affordable energy to regulatory relief in the drive to spur economic growth. Billy Long from Missouri. Billy was a very popular local talk show radio host for 6 years and a small businessman during his 30 years as an auctioneer. From the power of modern communications technology to the constraints facing American entrepreneurs, Billy brings unique insights and a commitment to sound policies in a smaller government to our committee. He represents Roy Blunt's old district. He's currently serving in his second term in the House. And if things are ever moving a little bit too slowly in this committee, don't be surprised if we ask him to show off those auctioneer skills to pick up the pace, if you can understand that twang. Renee Elmers from North Carolina. For more than 21 years before being elected to Congress, she served as a registered nurse. Her medical experience, coupled with her efforts as a small business owner and community leaders, make her certainly well suited to tackle the challenges of healthcare costs, access, and patient empowerment. She is a North Carolina representative through and through, but I would be remiss if I didn't point out that she was born and raised in the great state of Michigan. She is now serving her second term in the House, and we are pleased to welcome her to the committee. And finally, the good old Mr. Ralph Hall, who will celebrate his birthday on May 3rd, his 90th birthday later this year. We say welcome back, big time. Ralph took a sabbatical from our committee while he served as chairman of the Science, Space, and Technology Committee, and we are very happy to welcome yet another Texan back to the committee. So don't mess with Michigan and don't mess with Texas, that is for sure. I would now recognize Mr. Waxman to introduce our new and returning Democratic members.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to welcome back all the returning members of the Energy and Commerce Committee. On the Democratic side, we have an exceptionally capable and experienced group of members. I'm very proud of them. And as I learned last Congress, there's no shortage of talent on either side of the aisle. The returning Republican members of the committee are good allies when we're together and formidable foes when we're not. I join Chairman Upton in welcoming the new Republican members of the committee. You're joining a very special committee, one with over 200 years of service to the nation. Now it is my great honor to introduce the 5 new Democratic members on our side of the aisle. Jerry McNerney represents California's 9th Congressional District, which encompasses the towns and cities of the San Joaquin Valley and along the River Delta. Jerry has a doctorate in math, so he'll make sure our numbers add up. He's the only member of Congress to spend 20-plus years in the renewable energy field. During the 111th Congress, Jerry served as an able member of this committee, and I'm very pleased that he's back with us. Bruce Braley represents Iowa's 1st Congressional District, which includes the cities of Waterloo, Dubuque, and Cedar Rapids, as well as the state's northeast farming counties. Bruce is an experienced trial lawyer who practiced in Waterloo for 23 years before being elected to Congress, and I've seen him use these skills with great effect at oversight hearings. He served on this committee with distinction in the 111th Congress, and I'm pleased to welcome him back to our ranks as well. Peter Welch represents all of Vermont. It's an at-large congressional district. He's represented it since 2007. He served on this committee as well in the 111th Congress. He's a champion on energy efficiency, healthcare, and consumer protection, so his legislative experience is a great fit for the committee. When he served on our committee, he was the sponsor of the Homestar legislation that passed the House and provided incentives for energy efficiency improvements in homes, a good idea that I hope we can revisit in this Congress. Ben Ray Lujan represents New Mexico's 3rd Congressional District, which includes Santa Fe, the state's capital. Before joining the House of Representatives in 2009, Ben Ray served as chairman of the New Mexico Public Regulation Commission, where he developed an expertise in many of the issues that will be coming before our Energy and Commerce Committee. He has deep roots in New Mexico. In fact, his family has lived there since it was a state, and we welcome Ben Ray to the committee and know that he will have much to contribute to our work here. Paul Tonko represents New York's 20th Congressional District, which includes the cities of Albany, Schenectady, Troy, Saratoga Springs, Amsterdam, which is his hometown. Prior to his election to the House of Representatives, he served as chairman of the Energy Committee in the New York State Assembly, so he has great expertise and insights on energy issues to bring to this committee. He was also a leader on mental health issues, and what you may not know is that he has been recognized by his colleagues as the best dancer in the House of Representatives, which puts us at bookends. Because I probably, if there is such a recognition, would be the worst dancer in the House. So as you can see, we have new members on our side with great experience and diverse talents, and I ask you all to join me in welcoming these new Democratic members to the committee.
Let's give a hand to all the new members of the committee. We welcome you for sure. We're now going to move to the adoption of the committee's rules for the 113th Congress. The chair has a resolution at the desk and will ask the clerk to report.
A resolution offered by Mr. Upton. Be it resolved by the Committee on Energy and Commerce that the rules for the committee for the 113th Congress shall be.
Without objection, the resolution will be considered as read, and the chair will recognize himself briefly. These rules are substantially similar to the rules adopted by the 112th Congress. The changes are minor. They clarify the chairman's ability to close a hearing record, recognizing that the Oversight Subcommittee now has a vice chair, and making explicit the committee's previously implicit authority to conduct transcribed interviews in the course of an investigation. Staff also discussed changing the committee rules to grant the chair the unilateral ability to roll votes, but after discussion with the minority on this point, we decided not to make the change. I feel confident that Mr. Waxman, from his time as chairman, understands and appreciates the need to manage the committee in an efficient and productive manner, and I want to thank him for his understanding and certainly take him at his word that he will give full consideration to any request to roll votes. I now recognize Mr. Waxman for recognition.
Chairman Upton, I appreciate your willingness to work with us to propose a rules package that we can all support. To clarify our mutual understandings of a new addition to the committee rules, I'd like to engage in a colloquy so we can confirm we view the rule changes in the same way. As the chairman knows, the proposed committee rules include an addition to Rule 16, which states that the chairman may authorize committee staff to conduct transcribed interviews in the furtherance of an investigation. I believe transcribed interviews can be a valuable tool in our investigations. We used them when I was chairman of the committee. My understanding is that this modification to Rule 16 is not intended to give the committee new authority. It is to codify in the rules authority that the committee already has and has used in the past. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. You are correct. This committee has a long bipartisan history of conducting strong oversight, As you indicated, the ability to take a transcribed interview is an important tool when conducting investigations. A written, professionally transcribed record can further the investigation, provide accurate evidence, and protect the witness's rights. And with that tool, the committee can have an undisputed record. In the last Congress, some witnesses whom the committee had wanted to interview questioned whether the committee had the authority to take a transcribed interview because our rules were silent. We're solving this problem by specifically stating that the committee staff is authorized by our rules to do transcribed interviews. And as you indicated, this is not a change to the committee's authority. It is merely a codification of the authority that has always existed.
The committee has subpoena power that we can use to compel testimony at hearings and the production of documents. My understanding is that we cannot compel attendance at an interview transcribed by staff. Participation by a witness in a transcribed interview is always voluntary. Is that correct?
Yes, it is correct.
And after we adopt Rule 16 as modified, if a witness would prefer to testify in a hearing with members present rather than in a transcribed interview with staff, the witness can refuse to participate in the transcribed interview. Isn't that correct?
Yes, witnesses who would prefer to provide transcribed testimony in a hearing rather than a transcribed interview can decline to participate voluntarily in a transcribed interview.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I thank you for that clarification. We will certainly support the rules package. I appreciate your working with us, and you certainly will have my cooperation in helping the committee move our legislation efficiently when when it's in our interest, and usually and often it is, to roll votes. I will certainly work with you in that regard.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'd like to just to continue to engage in a colloquy regarding the committee's subpoena power. As you know, Committee Rule 16 allows me, after consultation with you, to authorize and issue subpoenas. I consider that power to be a very serious matter, and I know that you share that view. Now, we don't take these things lightly. Indeed, the rule that we have adopted today is the same as the one that we operated under in the last Congress. So today I'm seeking the gentleman's assurance that he'll work with us expeditiously in making decisions on possible subpoenas. At times, matters can arise very suddenly, and I want to be sure that if we need to, that we can work together very quickly to get a subpoena out the door.
If you'll yield, you're absolutely correct that the committee subpoena power is a very serious one. You have my assurance that when you contact me about the possibility of authorizing a subpoena, my staff and I will respond as promptly as possible. We want to work with you.
Thank the gentleman for the, yes, would recognize the gentlelady.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and congratulations on your chairmanship, and welcome to all of the new members to the committee. I just have a quick question. Do the rules, and I think it's under Rule 3 relative to hearings, does it include the opportunity for members of the full committee who are not members of a subcommittee to still participate in a hearing with all of the what is attendant to that they be last in terms of asking a question, but still have the opportunity to participate in another subcommittee's hearings?
Absolutely. In fact, we call this, and I refer to it later, as the SU protocol.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And for those members that are new to the committee, if you don't serve on a certain subcommittee that you'd like to participate in, you may ask unanimous consent to participate, and you will go after all of the other members. You're able to question witnesses and participate. Obviously, a markup, that doesn't count. But in a hearing, you're able to ask unanimous consent, and there is not a time that will not be approved by the subcommittee chair to allow you to sit in and participate at the following as a member of this committee. Is there further discussion of the rules package? Seeing none, the question occurs on the resolution. All those in favor will say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and the resolution is agreed to. I would now like to announce my selection of the vice chair of the committee, Marcia Blackburn from Tennessee. The vice chair is often considered the chair's right hand, and that's why she sits next to me. Doing this job means being committed to the success of our committee and helping us to achieve our goals. She has been a tireless advocate for her constituents, a visible spokesperson on the energy and commerce issues, and a very hard worker who can be found to be engaging witnesses in the public in our hearing rooms no matter what the issue is at hand. I appreciate her willingness to take on this role, which includes not just the responsibility to help manage committee proceedings and provide input on our work, but also to serve as the Energy and Commerce Committee's first designee to the House Budget Committee. This is a big role and one that appropriately recognizes how important our committee is in the coming fiscal debates. I want to thank you, Vice Chair Blackburn. We will now consider a resolution establishing the jurisdiction of the Energy and Commerce Committee's subcommittees. Chair has a resolution at the desk and asks the clerk to report.
A resolution offered by Mr. Upton, be it resolved by the Committee on Energy and Commerce that the jurisdiction of the standing subcommittee of the committee for the 113th Congress shall be designated as follows.
And without objection, the reading of the resolution is dispensed with, and the chair recognizes himself briefly. The jurisdiction of the subcommittee set forth in the resolution is, with a few technical changes, identical to what was on the committee website at the end of the last Congress. Is there discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, the question occurs on the resolution. All those in favor will say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Ayes appear to have it. The ayes have it. The resolution is agreed to. We'll now consider a resolution appointing the subcommittee chair, vice chair, and a majority members for each subcommittee. The chair has a resolution at the desk and asks the clerk to report.
A resolution offered by Mr. Upton. Be it resolved by the Committee on Energy and Commerce that the Republican chairman, vice chairman, and membership of the standing subcommittees of the committee for the 113th Congress shall be designated as follows.
And without objection, the reading of the resolution is dispensed with. The chair recognizes himself again briefly. Pursuant to Committee Rule 4, just adopted, this resolution simply designates the chair, vice chair, Republican members of each subcommittee. I want to thank my Republican colleagues for agreeing to serve in these positions. A lot of hard work lies ahead. Is there any discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, the question occurs on the resolution. All those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Now yield to Mr. Waxman to offer resolution.
Mr. Chairman, I offer a resolution designating the subcommittee ranking members and Democratic subcommittee membership for the 113th Congress. I'm pleased that our Democratic caucus has selected the following ranking members of the subcommittees. Ms. Escher will serve as ranking member of the Subcommittee on Communications and Technology. Ms. Schakowsky will serve as ranking member of the Subcommittee on Commerce, Manufacturing, and Trade. Mr. Rush will serve as ranking member of the Subcommittee on Energy and Power. Mr. Tonko will serve as ranking member of the Subcommittee on Environment and the Economy. Mr. Pallone will serve as ranking member of the Subcommittee on Health. And Ms. DeGette will serve as ranking member of the Subcommittee on Oversight and Investigations. These are thoughtful and capable individuals. The Democratic subcommittee members also have a range of experience and expertise that will inform the important work before the subcommittees, and I ask a full committee to support this resolution.
The clerk has reported the resolution, correct?
A resolution offered by Mr. Waxman.
And without objection, the reading of that resolution is dispensed with. And if there's no further discussion on the resolution, chair will call the question. Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The resolution is agreed to. The chair will now recognize himself to announce a number of policies that we are going to observe in this Congress. As many of you are aware, the committee is transitioning to paperless hearings. The committee used to distribute packets of testimony to members during pre-hearing staff briefings. For at least the past 3 Congresses, that paper initiative distribution has been replaced with email distribution. Don't you dare drop your iPad. The next step in this effort is transition to electronic testimony at all of the committee's hearings. Let me repeat that. The next step in this effort is to transition to electronic testimony at all of the committee hearings. It's my hope that most members have access to a portable device, such as a laptop or a tablet, which can access the internet using the House-provided Wi-Fi. You can even use your BlackBerry if you want to scroll that much. However, using that device, members can access witness testimony and additional materials from the committee website. Likewise, members of the public and the media can easily access testimony, opening statements, and other resources online. For members more comfortable with the paper copies of testimony or members of the public who require special accommodations, we won't leave you behind. The committee will continue to provide a limited production of hearing information in hard copy upon request. Our priority is to get members of the committee, the public, and the press the information that they need, and I'm excited about the new initiative that will allow us to do so more efficiently with less waste and at a much lower cost to the taxpayer. So that's number one. Number two, and as I indicated, the SU protocol. By all right, all members of the House are entitled to non-participatory attendance at a hearing, even if they're not on that particular subcommittee. For members of the Energy and Commerce Committee, you may ask unanimous consent to question witnesses if you're not on that subcommittee, but again, you're going to go at the end of the queue. I would ask members not abuse that privilege. We all have busy schedules, et cetera. So the last thing that I want to say is during markups in the last Congress, bipartisan amendments were given priority recognition. That's going to continue, and I encourage members on both sides to participate in that. The majority leader follows several protocols in scheduling legislation on the House floor. For example, no commemoratives, members must be present during consideration of the bill, no such sums, authorizations. While those protocols are not binding in this committee, I encourage you to observe those protocols in drafting legislation. And without objection, the staff is authorized to make technical and conforming changes to the resolutions passed today. That concludes the organizational business meeting portion of the day, and we will now move into the markup portion of the meeting, and we're going to adopt, hopefully, several bills that passed the House last Congress, but were not acted on by the Senate. And with agreement from Mr. Waxman, we're going to move these very quickly. Recognize myself for a couple of minutes to provide an opening statement, though I'll not use all of that time. As I mentioned previously, I've made it a policy in this committee to prioritize bipartisan bills and amendments. It's no mistake that we're here on the first day of the Energy and Commerce Committee's business in this Congress to move quickly on a series of bipartisan bills. We'll undoubtedly continue to have our differences, and we'll work hard to achieve the policies and principles in which we believe. But the first 5 bills before us today show that we can work together on a shared priority. And I would thank my colleagues for the work in the last Congress, and I'm pleased again to move these bills this year, and I would now yield to Mr. Waxman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for scheduling today's markup of 3 bipartisan public health bills and 2 bipartisan hydropower bills. Each of these bills passed in the 112th Congress but did not advance in the Senate. I'm pleased that we're working once again to move them forward on a bipartisan basis. The Children's Hospital GME Support Reauthorization Act is sponsored by Chairman Pitts and Ranking Member Pallone. H.R. 297 continues the successful National Physician Training Program that provides ongoing and consistent financial support to hospitals such as Children's Hospital of Los Angeles for the training of doctors who specialize in pediatrics. Congresswoman Capps and McMorris Rogers are the authors of the National Pediatric Research Network Act of 2013, which would now allow the National Institutes of Health to establish a national pediatric research network dedicated to finding treatments and cures for pediatric diseases and conditions, especially those that are rare. H.R. 225 also places emphasis on professional training for our future pediatric researchers, and I would encourage NIH to take full advantage of this opportunity to build on the strong body of its existing pediatric research. The Veterans Emergency Medical Technician Support Act of 2013 is sponsored by Congressman Kinzinger and Congresswoman Capps, it authorizes a demonstration grant program to states so they in turn can streamline the certification and licensure requirements for returning veterans to become emergency medical technicians. This legislation seeks to respond to higher than average unemployment rates experienced by our veterans, advancing shared goals of getting our vets back to work and addressing areas of shortage in health professionals. H.R. 267 is a bipartisan bill introduced by Congresswoman McMorris Rodgers and DeGette that will facilitate the development of new environmentally responsible hydropower projects. Their staffs work closely with the committee staff to produce this legislation. After extensive discussions with interested stakeholders, the bill is now one that is a good cooperative one that produces a balanced bipartisan approach. The last bill is the Collinsville hydropower legislation introduced by Congresswoman Esty of Connecticut. The bill would authorize the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission to reinstate licenses for 2 hydroelectric projects on the Farmington River and to transfer those licenses to the towns of Canton, Connecticut. This balanced bill allows FERC to get these projects licensed expeditiously while ensuring that the appropriate environmental analysis is completed and considered. Democrats and Republicans worked together to bring each of these bills before the full committee today, and when the chairman calls up the bills and we have a chance to vote on them, I would urge my colleagues to support all of them.
Thank you, Mr. Waxman. So let me just say it. I intend to call up each of these bills individually and have a quick voice vote on each of the 5, and we'll entertain requests now for opening statements on any of the bills. If a member would like to do, let me recognize Mr. Pitts first, and then I'll come to the other side. Mr. Pitts is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to enter the following letters of support in the record under unanimous consent. This letter from the Association of Medical Colleges in support of H.R. 297, letter from National Children's Hospital in support of H.R. 297 and H.R. 225, letter from the Association of United States Navy in support of H.R. 235, and one from the Coalition for Pediatric Medical Research in support of H.R. 225.
Without objection. Chair would recognize Mr. Oh, I'm sorry.
Briefly.
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, let me make a few remarks on H.R. 297, the Children's Hospital Graduate Medical Education Support Reauthorization Act. Ranking Member Pallone and I have reintroduced this bill to reauthorize the Children's Hospital GMA program for an additional 5 years. The program trains 40% of our nation's pediatricians, 43% of pediatric subspecialties. More than 5,000 residents take part in this program every year, and 56 freestanding children's hospitals in the U.S. participate. Since the program was enacted in 1999, the number of pediatric residents has increased 35%. This program has enjoyed bipartisan support since its creation, and in the 112th Congress, we reauthorized the program. Actually, we passed it twice. I would like to thank my friend, Mr. Pallone, for helping lead on the bill again. I urge all my colleagues to support the critical program. Yield back.
Chair would recognize Mr. Pallone for an opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to comment on the health bills, but just very briefly, I just wanted to say, first, welcome the new members, and I can't help but reminisce, some of you have heard me say this before, about when I was a freshman member and I was on the Transportation Committee at the time because my predecessor, Jim Howard, was the chairman of it, so I decided I had to go on it. And very quickly, I would sort of wander over to the entrance to the Rayburn building and come in here and listen to some of the hearings of the Energy and Commerce Committee, and I was just amazed at the debate over the great issues of the day. And I saw people, I hope they don't take offense to what I say, but I saw, you know, people like John Dingell, who was the chairman, and Henry Waxman, and Ed Markey, and Bill Richardson as sort of the, you know, the great leaders of the Congress. I mean, they still are, but some of them aren't here anymore. And I said to myself, that's it, I'm not staying on the Transportation Committee. I got to get on this committee. And I certainly, I've made the right decision, that's for sure, because we still deal with all the great issues in the Congress. So congratulations to the new members for joining the committee. Also, I wanted to mention that when the President spoke yesterday, he talked about how every generation has this crisis, but when we work together on a bipartisan basis, we can manage to get over those crises and address them. And I really think that when Henry Waxman said that's what we really need to do here, it's true. We really need to work on a bipartisan basis, and we can get things done. So let me just talk about the bills briefly, if I can. I know that we talk about how 2 of these bills already passed the House, but we ran out of time in the Senate. I just wanted to comment on the Children's Hospital Graduate Medical Education Reauthorization Act, which I sponsored with Chairman Pitts. Children in our communities are counting on this program to train a future generation of pediatricians, and it's a program with proven results, and it's past time that we reauthorize CHGME and provide certainty to hospitals and doctors. The bill had overwhelming support in the last Congress, and I hope this year the Senate will take it up and send it to the President. Nationwide, 56 hospitals in 30 states participate in the program, which funds medical school graduates, enhances hospital research capabilities, and improves hospitals' ability to provide care to vulnerable and underserved children. In 2009, the program supported the training of 5,361 resident physicians. The 2 other health bills, the Pediatric Research Consortium Act and the Veterans Emergency Medical Technician Support Act, were both sponsored by Congresswoman Capps, and we overwhelmingly passed these bills through both committees and the House last Congress, so I support their passage again. I don't want to reiterate all the details of them, but they are very important, and particularly if I could mention to my colleague, Ms. Capps, when we had the hearing on the EMT bill, it was really interesting to see how many veterans really were thwarted in their efforts to complete EMT training that they could use after they left the military. So I think that's a particularly important bill, and I urge my colleagues to support these, and hopefully we can get them on the floor and passed in the Senate in a timely fashion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Other members wishing to make an opening statement on Mr. Latta.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the time. And just briefly, I also want to specifically mention my support for H.R. 297, the legislation to reauthorize graduate medical education programs for children hospitals. There are 6 Ohio children's hospitals receiving CHGME, and this reauthorization is extremely important to train pediatric residents and specialists in pediatrics in Ohio and across the country. This is a vital reauthorization. I'm hopeful that the bill moves swiftly through the House and the Senate and is signed into law by the President. In addition, H.R. 267, the Hydropower Regulatory Efficiency Act of 2013, of which I am also an original co-sponsor, is an important part of the House's Republicans all the above energy policy, and hope to attain the energy independence for this country, and I strongly support this bill. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back. Thank you.
Chairman yields back. Other members, gentlelady from Colorado.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just very briefly, I'd like to express my thanks to everybody for the bipartisan support of these bills. The problem we have with these bills is not bipartisanship, it's bicameral support. And these bills are ones that passed the House pretty unanimously and then never got called up in the other body. So now we're giving them 2 years. I hope maybe they'll take them up. The first one I want to give support to is Representative Capps and Ms. McMorris-Rogers' bill that I've been working on also for many years, the National Pediatric Research Network Act. That's a really important bill that's passed the House the last 2 Congresses, and I hope the other body takes it up because our nation's children deserve it. And then, of course, the second bill is the bill that I've been doing with Representative McMorris-Rogers the past couple of years, the Hydropower Regulatory Efficiency Act of 2013. What this bill does is it cuts red tape for hydropower producers. And I was just looking at an op-ed from the Telluride, Colorado newspaper. There are so many small hydro projects around the country who could be producing energy if we could just cut those regulations and red tape. So I want to thank you for bringing them up, Mr. Chairman, and I yield back.
Let me just say that I intend to try to get these bills up on the House floor as quick as we can. And I'll be walking over to the Senate to see if we can't get them moving along to the President's desk. Other members wishing to speak? Mr. Hall.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be very brief. I'm honored to be back here. some 30, 32 years ago, I came to Congress, and a guy named Jim Wright was majority leader, I believe then. Later speaker asked me what committee I wanted. Sam Rayburn had been my speaker, our congressman. He told me this was the only committee up here to be on. I asked for this committee, and NASA, I got both of them. Honored to be here. Thank you. Look forward to working with you. Like Democrats and Republicans, and by then, like I am by heaven and hell, I have friends in both places, and I'm willing to work with you.
And as we know, you've sat on both sides of the aisle. So, thank you. Other members wishing to speak? Gentleman from New York, Mr. Engel.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to briefly say I support the bills, but I really want to take the opportunity to congratulate you again as chairman. You're a member's member. We all appreciate the collegiality. You and I have gone back a long time, and I just want to congratulate you again as chairman. It's a pleasure to be on this committee. Thank you.
Other members wishing to speak? Gentlelady from California.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and my words of thanks will be brief as well, but starting with you, just for what you said just now, we're moving these bills now. Hopefully they'll be in action and signed by the President shortly, thanks to your quick efforts. And I want to thank also the folks, Ranking Member Waxman, Chairman Pitts, Ranking Member Pallone for their work on the Children's Hospital Association Coalition for Pediatric Medical Research for backing H.R. 225, and my colleague, Congresswoman McMorris Rogers, for all her hard work on this bill, and to her personal commitment to children with special health care needs. The National Pediatric Research Network Act also wouldn't be without where it is, and I want to mention, I know we all have constituents, and I know you do, Mr. Chairman, but my family, the Strong family in Santa Barbara, California, has really they've created their own foundation on issues like this, and they have put such a great deal of support into this effort. They've dedicated their lives to working towards a cure and better treatments for children with spinal muscular atrophy. They are such a model of how hard work can make a difference in the lives of children and their families. And I also just want to briefly thank Representative Kinzinger for his hard work on the vet EMT bill, and proud to work with you, all of you, on this important legislation as well. I urge support for both measures and yield back my time.
Thank you. Other members wishing to speak? Seeing none. No other members seek recognition. The chair will call up H.R. 267, the Hydropower Regulatory Efficiency Act of 2013. The first reading is dispensed with, and the bill is agreed to and ordered favorably reported by unanimous consent. Without objection, so ordered. Chair now calls up H.R. 316, the Collinsville Renewable Energy Promotion Act. First reading is dispensed with. The bill is agreed to and ordered favorably reported by unanimous consent. Without objection, so ordered. Chair now calls up H.R. 297 to amend the Public Health Service Act to reauthorize support for graduate medical education programs in children's hospitals. The first reading is dispensed with. The bill is agreed to and favorably reported by unanimous consent. Without objection, so ordered. Chair now calls up H.R. 225, National Pediatric Research Network Act of 2013. First reading is dispensed with, and the bill is agreed to and ordered favorably reported by unanimous consent. Without objection, so ordered. The chair finally calls up H.R. 235, the Veteran Emergency Medical Technician Support Act of 2013. The first reading is dispensed with. The bill is agreed to and ordered favorably reported by unanimous consent. Without objection, so ordered. And without objection, staff is authorized to make technical and conforming changes to the bills approved by the committee today. Hearing no objection, so ordered. And without objection, the committee stands adjourned. Thank you all.